Treebard, as we all know by now, is a showcase of functionalities, a working model for people who want to create their own genealogy software, whether for their own use, them and their friends, and maybe they want to sell some software. It's up to you. You can do what you want with Treebard. What if we can't remember? What if we was off someplace? Ellen Giglio Baxter, kind of halfway remember part of that. Okay, let's go off to Janelle. That's her sister. That was like 10 seconds ago, so I no longer remember the person's name. All I remember is GIG. All right, let's go here, see what we can find. See if we can find that person. Oh my goodness, there she is. Oh look, there's a name tip. That's called a name tip. Birth name, that tells you what type of name it is. That is the person search, and then you can type something in here. Let's go make a person name because it's a lot faster. Philippi Colin. Now you see this transferred here. When I was working on search.py, which is where search dialog is coded, I found it wasn't transferring from here to here. And I fixed it. In the process of fixing that, so this would transfer from here to here, I broke the other ones where, for example, you type a father or a mother or adoptive parent or a partner or a child that's a new person and tab out, then this will open and then that name is no longer transferring here. When I fixed that feature for this dialog, I broke it. In the other places, you just have to look at the different places where you go from a person autofill to an add person dialog. And why is it now working here when you start off in the person search dialog? And something I did there broke the same function in other person autofills, such as this one and all these. That'll be easy to fix. Let's type a more common. Now these are all the people who have A&E in their name. There's two Linnell Bruners, those two different people. One's ID 119, one's ID 400. If you want to change to this person, let's say it was changed to Bernie, just a plain old click, and it changes the current person to Bernie. All right, let's talk about this events table, also known as the conclusions table, because that distinguishes it from the sources and what the sources say, which is an assertion. The sources say one thing. You, the user of the genieware, you say what you want based on assertions, based on sources, based on what you want to base it on. This is for you to make your conclusion. So the events and attributes table, the events table, the conclusions table, all names for this table right here. It starts out with a birth. Everybody has a birth. Age 0. That's for everybody. That's automatic. The other events are not created automatically. You have to create them yourself. Birth is always first and death is always last. Why is this divorce and marriage coming after the death? Birth is always first. Death is always last, except for the after death events, which are going to be after death and before your undated events, which are filed down here alphabetically with the attributes. By attribute, I mean anything that doesn't have a date. Now, that's not set in concrete. There is a gray area where you can't really say, well, is it an event, is it attribute, is it kind of like both? So let's just say the events and attributes table has dated stuff at the top as well as birth and death, and undated stuff at the bottom under the after death events. What is an after death event? Where does it go? It goes after death and before the attributes. Let's do something interesting. We're going to say this person was born in 1900 and died in 1899. No, I know that's not possible. However, even if I totally redraw the table, you see that the birth and death come in the right order. Okay, now let's say they had a residence. That's going to be at the bottom, but what if I put a date on it? Then it's going to move up to the top with the other dated events. You can go Control F5 to redraw it. And there you go. Okay, if I say occupation, and I move it up by saying, well, I don't know what year it was, but I'm going to estimate based on common sense or whatever I have to base it on. no guarantee about any of us genealogists having no common sense, but some of us have a little bit. Estimate he had an occupation from 1930 to 1940. And that occupation might be farmer. Usually you don't have to do this, but on some things you have to resort the table by redrawing it. Control F5. All right, now everything in here is sorted by date, except for birth and death, which come in fixed locations, whether there's a date on them or not. Probate, let's put a phony bad date on that again, just for the fun of it. Redraw the table. See, the probate always comes after the death. Divorce and marriage, you could add dates to those. 1892, let's say January 19. And let's say the marriage was 1892, January 18. That's just a joke. Don't take it the wrong way. Everything's sorted properly by date. We need to show roles and notes. We've already showed sources and assertions. Editing is part of genealogy. You change your mind all the time, right? You get another source, you change your mind. You find out you made a mistake, you have to edit something. Okay, so let's say the probate was 1962, and we have a range where we know it happened within a certain range. It's between such and such and such and such a date. Between March 4, 1962 and, if it's a range we say and, if it's a span we say to, and we know it happened sometime in this range of times. You can type that stuff in any order except for the and. The and goes between the two dates. Okay, and it formats instantaneously into the format that you have pre-chosen for it to format in. Let's change this to a career. And a career would have a span, basically, for the most part. Let's say the career is from 1920 to 1945. It's going to format when I tab out from 1920 to 1945. There's different ways that can be formatted. That's over in preferences. I'll show you that pretty soon. Now I want to change that. Let's go 1925, February 22. So let's try a range here between August 14, 1942 and April 1, 1955. So let's add a place. Select an action in regards to a place or place name. We're going to add a place. Miami, Florida, USA. Okay. Which Miami? New place in Miami. You know there's a place in Oklahoma named Miami. Yep, there is. Existing USA, so we don't make a new USA. We made a place called Miami. Now let's change the current place to Miami. Change current place. Okay. This is the default place photo. You can change default pictures. Remind me to show you how. It's over here. It's right here. I'll show you how one of these times. Now let's delete this. Go like this. Moorcroft. Moorcroft is gone. If I try to type Moorcroft into here, it no longer fills in because it no longer exists in the database. I wanted to show you something else about the place autofills, which is, let's go M, Morton, Fremont County, Wyoming. Morton is the last M place that I used. Okay, now let's try to use Miami. Let's go M. It's going to fill in first, right? Because I comes before O, right? Oh my goodness, look. Well, that's handy, isn't it? Because we just happen to be working with Morton census. And every time I type an M, it's going to type Morton because Morton was the last thing I used in a place autofill. Let's say this time I wanted to type Miami, so we'll go like that. Morton is going to fill in, right? Just like last time? No. Miami is, because that's the last place we used. What's going to fill in this time, Morton or Miami? Well, last one I used, Miami. But I want to change to Morton, so it's changed to Morton. There you go. And we'll go one more time just to prove that this works. M, and Morton fills in because it was the last one we used. Now that's very handy. You want to make a note about a place? Let's make it about Miami, Florida. Okay, now we have this note that's linked to Miami, Florida. SDFG. Let's search all current notes for SDFG. That's the word that we're searching for. Search text found in note ID number 53. That's this one. Let's create another note. And let's put a SDFG in there also. Create the note. Now they're both here. They both have the same word in them. Search current notes. These are these two notes. These are the current notes. We're going to search only the current notes, SDFG. It's in 53 and 54, which are both right there. Now let's unlink the selected note from current place, Miami. Okay, let's go on to sources. Previously, I already showed you how to create sources over in the assertions dialog. This is what you do when you want to link the assertion to a name or an event or attribute. Or actually what you're doing is linking it to a date, place, particulars, age, or role in a row of the events table. Now I want to show you how to make a source without actually linking it to something, because you can do that too. Current source, Bellflower B. It has no pictures. Bellflower B. Let's change it to Bellflower Beat. It's the same source ID. All that changed is the source's name. It's still linked to all the same things it was before. Say you want to add a citation. These are citations. This one, and this one. Here I wanted to test if you could add a really long citation, what would happen. If you did, you get a scroll bar so you can see the whole page. Let's add to the current citations. Down here, these buttons are for editing, deleting citations. Each citation has its own set of buttons, so you know which one's going to do what. First off, let's edit this big long one. Just make it considerably shorter. Okay. Now, if you want to add a citation, see it's across from current citations right there. That's just a newspaper, so let's go section C, page 9, column 2. Okay, and there it is. Delete. We want to delete that, and there you go, it's gone. We want to make a note about, let's do this citation. You go note, and there's the same note dialog. You know what to do with it. I already showed you, okay? But let's do it anyway just to prove that it works. Create new note and link to current citation. Okay, we close it, open it, see if it's still there. Yep, there it is. We can delete that note with the red button, the one that turns red when you point at it. Change current source to 1880 census. There's no pictures. We can add as many as we want. Let's make a new source. 1921 Canada census. You can call this anything you want. Treebard does not come preloaded with sources, places, or anything else because we think that the user wants to do his own research. He wants to use his own names for things, and Treebard is a portable program. We don't want to preload it with a bunch of junk that you don't need. Source type, I think you can leave this blank if you want. I don't remember. Play with it. Find out. It shouldn't be required because some people don't care about, you know, that gnat's eyelash kind of categorization of every little thing. Citation not required in this place because it's creating a source place. You don't have to create a citation when you create a source. 1921 Canada census was also made the current source. Change this marriage to Canada. Which Canada? This one. Now we're going to record an assertion about this place conclusion regarding this marriage in 1892. The assertion is at the Catholic priest's house. What the new assertion is about, I don't think Catholic priests are allowed to perform marriages at their house. Now, I don't want to misrepresent the Catholic Church. Maybe misrepresent it a little bit, but not too much. Source that makes this assertion, this is supposed to autofill. What was that, 1921? 1921, Canada Census, it autofills. Source type, don't need to do that. If you click the arrow, there's no citations pre-made already. Citation for this, I don't remember how they do things in the Canada Census. Let's just say whatever. Now we have a place. You see the asterisk? We have a place assertion. It's right here. Now let's record a date assertion. Same source. Citation now has some content there in the drop down. I'm going to put a space there. I don't always want to write an assertion because sometimes it's just obvious. And if there's no dispute about a fact or a conclusion, I should call it, then why put an assertion? But you can see that there are now two assertions or two sources, as it says here. There's going to be a source here, and there can be an assertion. The assertion can be blank. Now, if you had 2 or 3 different sources saying different dates for this marriage, you'd want to actually go in here and put some text here. You can't, you can put anything you want. An assertion, even if it's a date assertion, this is not a date field, it's a text field. You put anything you want because you might want to put the exact text, especially for dates, because who knows what anybody's talking about when they write a date. I mean, whatever, you just, whatever you want to put. That's any text for all of these. The assertion does not work like a roles. These are how roles work in Treebard. The roles assertion is just text. Anything you want to put, preferably that is either exact text in the source or something that explains or describes the exact text in the source. It's up to you. Let's click a role, see what the roles are. This is adjunct people in the event. I don't remember which event. Oh, it says right there. It was the birth event for Bernie. Let's say that he had a midwife. There you go. If the right role type isn't in here, you go over to the Types tab and make it. This is a person field, so let's just say Tyrone was the midwife. And here, if you want to delete the role, just do that. That's how you correct the role, by the way, is you delete it. I used to have some real fancy code here, and it was impossible to maintain. My solution was to make the role simply deletable, and if you got it wrong, you just delete it and start over. We're going to make the midwife a girl this time. Hey, look what happened. We got our dots. That means there's something there. Okay, this role is going to come up blank. This role dialogues are going to come up blank. No roles there. But this one's not going to come up blank because there's 3 dots. You want to add another role, you can. This was a complicated birth. They had the midwife there to do the thinking and the attending physician there to smoke the cigars outside. That's roles. Roles very simple, but very important because on the census you got a border. You suspect that he might be a nephew or a close friend or somebody important, so you want to put them in the database like everybody else and research them. So that's what Treebard does. Of course, you can also put adoptive parents, foster parents like that, guardians. You can make them roles instead of parents. Up here in the parent section of the families table, you can just put them in the roles if you aren't that interested in them, don't want to research them. It's up to you. Either way, they go into the database as people in the database. I'm going to come right back and we'll talk about some more features of Treebard in the next movie. Bye.